You guys see it every day. Well, actually probably not anymore. When you walk into the school lunch line, you would see what it would say, my tray. And what did that tell you to do?
Grab certain food categories.
Yes, grab each of the different food categories, and we kind of gave you even a spot on your tray where those needed to go so you had the right amount. So the My Plate tells us what we should eat for each category throughout the day. Once you put in that vocab, you can go ahead and just put your computer into your desk because you will need it a little bit later on. So when we're looking at our daily eating plan, so this is what I grew up on for the old pyramid. It was stacked from the bottom to the top, and you had 6 to 11 servings throughout the day for your grains, and then we did fruits and vegetables, then our dairies and proteins, and eventually our fats, oils, and sweets. The problem with this was that everyone thought you needed to fill the bottom of the pyramid first before you could move all the way up. Now, some of you may have been at the 6 range and some of you may have been at the 11 range, but because it didn't tell you, you felt like you could go anywhere within that category. So actually everyone was overeating and eating to the high end of the category. So then when you guys were younger, they switched this and they kind of tipped the pyramid on its side. They gave each of those categories a color, and notice the colors go from the bottom to the top, saying they're all just as equally important, that grains aren't more important than anything else because that's what was at the bottom. And we put a set of stairs on the side saying physical activity is just as equally important as what you're eating on a daily basis. So then they said, well, we're still having problems. We're still overeating. We can't really break that down. And people aren't eating healthy throughout the whole day. They're just like, hurry up and get and fill into their categories. And besides, with this old one here, you actually had to go to the website, plug in your age, your weight, your height, your activity level, and then it would tell you how many ounces of each of these you needed to do. Still wasn't very effective. So then they said, let's actually take a plate, what we can put in front of someone. Think about when you were a little kid and you had the divider section plate. It's exactly what you can actually purchase these if you want. And let's actually start to break this down. Our protein, so any of our meats, is less than a quarter of the plate. We eat in the Midwest. This tends to be half of it. And then what people think is their vegetable, if this is my dad, it's steak and potatoes. So your potato, he would say, is his vegetable, which really it's not. It's his grain. So he would actually just eat this. Just eat grains and protein all day long. Then they said, hey, we need to get more vegetables in there, more of our leafy green vegetables, our carrots, some of those other things, along with our fruit. And then let's stick dairy off to the side because drinking milk is actually very healthy for us. But understand that you could switch that out and you could put it as a cheese inside of that plate and then just drink water instead. So when they started to make these recommendations, here were just some key tips that they said. Watch balancing your calories. Enjoy the food that you're eating, just eat less of it. We tend to eat way more than we absolutely need to. So cutting back, having a smaller plate. My daughter still, yes, is a great eater, but yet there are certain meals I know she's not going to eat as much as the rest of us. So I give her like the dinner, the saucer plate versus the big plate, because when I give it to her smaller and I still give her the same amount, it looks like her plate's just as full as ours. And she'll actually eat all of it. If I give her the big plate and has lots of empty spaces on it, she actually just is convinced that she's eaten enough of it because it already looks like it's empty. Watch those oversized proportions. When we go to a restaurant, when my husband and I were first married, we would go to Applebee's, and every time I would order whatever chicken with potatoes and stuff, I got 2 chicken breasts. Why do I need 2? I only need 1 for the meal. Actually really only need 3 ounces, not 6 ounces, and not actually 12 ounces that they were giving me. So we have to just be careful that we're not overdoing it. Increase our fruits and vegetables. School lunches switched several years ago that you can go back for extra fruits and vegetables. Now, high school is a little differently because you can't go back through the line, but at the elementary schools, you can. This is what I had to teach my son when he was younger. I mean, he's a big kid. So he's always been a big kid. And so we had to teach him to go back for extra fruits and vegetables. He loved it when they had the extra table that kids that didn't want to drink the milk but got the milk anyways and would go to that. He would go get extra milks. I would never tell my kids, you can't drink too much milk. For me, because I grew up not drinking milk and I know what it did when I became an adult. My leg cramps and all those things, especially when I started to have babies. What that happened. Then switching those breads into a whole grain as much as we can. School's done that. All your pastas, all your breads are whole grains versus white. In our house, I don't know the last time I bought like a loaf of white bread. It's been years. We usually buy a multi-grain that has nuts and everything else in it. And so when my kids were little, they would make a peanut butter sandwich and they're out running out in the neighborhood talking to some of the neighbors. And I remember one of the adults were like, "What are you eating?" And my kid's like, "I don't know, peanut butter sandwich." "What's in your bread?" And it's there's like sunflower seeds. And they were like, "That's disgusting." The adult is telling my kid the healthy bread that they were eating wasn't very good. And thankfully, Hayden's just like, whatever. And like off she goes and still eats it. But just think about what are the little things that we can switch out. Getting to the fat-free and down to the 1% milk as much as you can. At school, they've done that. All of your chocolate milk no longer is 2%. They don't serve 2% anymore. We just serve 1%. And then reducing any of our prepackaged foods, that's where all high in sodium, all of those things we have to lower down. Now, ironically, my husband actually has to increase his sodium level. He's been on a seizure med for like the last 3.5 years. And the last one they switched him to actually can decrease his seizures or decrease his sodium levels. And I said, well, what happens if your sodium levels get too low? Then he can pass out just as bad as having a seizure. So I'm like, okay, so he's actually the opposite. He has to salt everything to make sure his levels stay high enough. And then drinking as much water as we can, getting rid of any of those sugary drinks. So this is kind of roughly throughout the day what you should kind of have. 5 ounces of grains. Well, what does that kind of look like? We'll kind of come back to those serving sizes. 2 cups of vegetables, 1.5 cups of fruits, 3 cups of dairy. So your carton of milk is 1 cup. So if at lunch you already drink 2 of those, you're pretty much golden when it comes to getting in enough milk. If it's anything like at our house, we usually go through about 3+ gallons of milk a week. And everyone is drinking enough. And then your proteins, only about 5 ounces. And we'll look at what some of these servings look like. Here's kind of another chart breakdown of based upon your age level, how many ounces versus boy versus girl. So you should actually, everyone in this room should be under 18. You should be able to figure out, are you fitting within that category? Now, if we are involved in activities right now, we actually are going to probably increase this. Increase more of the protein than anything else. And then another kind of, when you're using any of your oils, make sure they're healthy oils. So if it is liquid at room temp, then it's healthy to use. So vegetable oil, your olive oil, those are better than a butter that's solid at room temp. Okay, they just have more chemicals in there. So as much olive oil as you can use, the better. Kind of just some additional things. We're going to do a couple of different activities with this. Okay, so looking at what are some of these serving sizes. So a piece of fruit up here in this top corner is about the size of a baseball or about the size of your fist. This counts as 1 serving of your fruit. When we're looking at chopped or cut up vegetables, we're talking about 1/2 cup. So any of our cut up fruit that would fit in a closed hand, when you go down for school lunch, 1/2 cup of fruit, that's the serving utensil they use. They'll scoop it up. You'll actually see them kind of shake it off to get rid of the excess. And that counts as 1 serving of your vegetables or your fruit. Your lettuce is double that, is 1 cup. So that's a wide open hand. When you watch the cooks, when they grab, they use an open hand when giving you lettuce, because that's going to be about that serving size. When we get into our proteins, we're looking at 3 ounces is about the size of a deck of cards, or what the palm of your hand is. This is considered 1 serving. If we go back to this chart here, And we go to our proteins. Gentlemen, you're supposed to having 6.5 ounces of protein a day. So that's really only 2 decks of cards. And you're like, yeah, the steak I had the other day was 24 ounces. Today's, tomorrow's, and even part into the next. So now you can start to see very quickly like how much we are maybe some overeating in some areas in those protein and maybe not getting enough of those vegetables. Because I know still at my house, certain vegetables, if I scoop up, they're not going to eat a whole serving size of it. So just try as much as we can. An ounce of cheese, which counts as a serving, is 4 dice. Think about when you've cut off the block of cheese, how many slices you've cut off when we're trying to identify what counts as those servings. Okay. Grab out your computer here, and we're going to do an assignment. Sorry. So go to choosemyplate.gov. Let me jump on here quick. Okay, go to, of course they've switched it up. So we're going to go down to this main part where we have all the different tabs. Let's just click on the fruit, for example. Now you're going to need to give me 2 seconds because they completely changed the website. Of course they did. Okay, while I double check and figure out where we're at. Actually, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want you to go. I'm going to have you do the top part of this. Grab colored writing utensil. You're going to need these colors. I've got colored pencils in the back I can grab if you need them. Okay, so if you have your colored pencils out, just set those off to the side. Go back to your computer. And go back to that main page so it looks like this, correct? They just added one more link. So click on it so it's highlighted on the fruits. And then where it says to learn. Why did mine freeze up again? Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Scroll down right underneath fruit where it says learn more. Click on the learn more. And then scroll down again. And where it says daily fruit table, click that plus sign so it opens up that table. So now you should be able to go and figure out how many servings you need for the day. Everyone finding this? Okay. And then scroll down even further when it says what counts as a cup of fruit. Open that up. And now it's going to give you all kinds of examples and all the different fruits. What counts as a fruit as well. Scroll back up to the top so I can show you because you're going to do this for the bottom. So you're going to write how many fruits you need at the bottom. Go to the left side and then find where it says vegetables. And then those same drop-down boxes will come open. So you'll click on how many vegetables do you need for the day? What counts as a vegetable? Make sense? So you're going to fill in the bottom chart right here. What do you need for your age group and your gender? And now flip to the back side. I want you to make your main 3 meals, and you cannot exceed your numbers on the bottom. So if you could only have 2 cups of fruit, when you fill in this for breakfast, lunch, and supper, it can't count over 2 cups. Yes? No? Understanding? Okay. So we're going to spend the rest of class kind of working on this. When you are done with my colored pencils, please put them in the red bin. They can all intermix. I have to clean them off anyway, so before I can give them back to the next group.